Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the BB-Scho. I'm your host, Beebs. I'm here with my co-host, Chen. We're here to talk about some NFL football, recap week 3, talk about some big storylines, preview week 4, hit some of our main segments. But before we dive into all that, man, how you doing today on this fine Monday?
You say that now, and I gotta open the light a bit because it's a nice Monday. I'm not gonna complain. Got home quick. No harm, no foul. But gonna have some stories for these games here, man. I'm gonna be honest, and I'm assuming you're doing pretty well yourself. Just there's a lot to talk about, and especially for this Packer game, I uh, I got a story. I don't know if we want to dive right into it right away, but I have a story.
So yeah, we can start with the Packers game. Before we do that, though, we'll get straight to business. Recap just a quick recap of our picks from week 3 before we highlight a couple of what we think were the key games. Thursday night we went 3 for 3. Jake was here. He predicted week 3 with us. 3 for 3. We all had the 49ers. We actually went 0 for 3. We all had the Falcons. I was the only one who got the Chargers right. We all got the Packers right. We all got the Jaguars wrong. We all had the Dolphins. Me and you had the Browns. He had the Titans. We all had the Bills. We all lost on the Ravens. Me and you had Patriots. He had the Jets. Me and you had the Seahawks. He had the Panthers. We all took the Chiefs. We all lost on the Cowboys. We all took the Steelers. So right now, I am 10-4. You are 9-5, and he is 6-8 right now on the week. That is. So I have a chance to put up some big numbers at 12-4. So Eagles and Bengals can win tonight. So that would be, I think, the most we've ever gotten in a week is 12. I'd have to double check the history on that, but the most we've ever done in a week is 12. Um,
I have the Bengals, or I have the Rams tonight, right?
yep. So I've got Eagles, Bengals. You've got Eagles, Rams, and he's got Bucks, Bengals.
Oh, some variety there. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, you can kick us off. Take us through Green Bay's 11th straight home opener victory.
Yeah, an 11 straight is crazy. I mean, to keep trotting out, a team every year that wins at home. For 11 years, I'm impressed. But man, I gotta say, I love Nate. He's my brother-in-law. Had a birthday party for his son, my nephew, Ezra. Easy, the man, 2 years old. Okay. I had to go to this. It started at 12. So I'm watching the game from my phone. Now it was a great event. Okay, like great food, great people, right? But I am somebody who wants to watch the game. So I'm irked when I have to get out of my Hobbit phone hole and talk, socialize, participate. Again, love the food, not would never change being there, especially as I was checking the highlights. I see Rashid Shaheed turning in Devin Hester, and our offense was just non-existent. And when Jordan Love missed that 4th and 2, I think you might know what I'm talking about. At the beginning of the fourth quarter, it was to like Kylan Hill. He just missed him on a very NFL quarterback should make that throw. I turned it off. Like I turned it off and did not come back to it. I engaged in the rest of the birthday party like a civilian. I drove home, set up a new TV, and as I sit down, I put on the TV. I'm like, oh, Bears Chiefs is on. Check my phone and see the final score, and that was my Sunday. But
You're kidding.
so in terms of recap, in what I've obviously seen from extensive highlights I watched over and over, Jordan Love very poised. Defensively, another like we have the personnel we do, and when Joe Barry goes against like older offensive coordinator type offenses, like we've seen this Saints Taysom Hill offense for years. Joe Barry does fine, but yeah, for the first like 3 quarters, it was a nightmare. And you might think differently, but I think Jordan Love is like at least top 10 quarterback in the game right now.
Okay.
Right? It lists the 10 like guys that are playing right now in top 10 level. I think Jordan Love, I can make a case for getting in that 10 or 9 spot.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna take that bait back because I don't want to get put on record saying something blasphemous. Yeah, I mean, so I had the game on the whole day. I was in a similar state of mind, but the reality is this man is down 17-0 at the start of the fourth quarter. I genuinely was not in the state of mind of like, oh, this game is over. Simply because when you have a defense that has allowed 10 points the whole day and like the Saints were struggling, they had a punt return as one of their touchdowns. It's like, well, it's in reach. It was like, oh, this is possible. And then we just started turning it on offense, started moving the ball. Jordan Love, man, I can't express how good it was to see him bounce back from his fourth quarter last week against the Falcons to this.
Right.
That's what you look for in a young quarterback is somebody who, sure, you can have your game manager, which is what some people will probably label him as at this point, right? You have your game manager who's going to win you games, but when it comes down to it, you got to have a guy who you trust to do something like this, to show up and make the game-winning drive, to make the fourth quarter comeback, to lead the team without his best receivers on the field, without his best weapons. And he's doing it. I felt like I was in a time capsule watching the Packers a little bit. It felt like the days of winning 10 games in a season with James Jones and Randall Cobb out there, and Jordy Nelson tore his ACL, so we didn't even have him. Like, that's what it felt like, man. And like, that's high praise for Jordan Love, but I don't know how else to like describe it from a Packers perspective of like, dude, if this guy's going to win, make the offense, win these games, and we're going to win games with good defense, like, we're really set. And that's where we were circa 2008, 2009, 2010. And we all know what happened in 2010 when we had the number 2 ranked defense, I believe, in the league. Like, it's one of those things where that's where this team is constructed. And I'm very excited for the foreseeable future. And I'm not going to be all in and say Jordan Love's top 10 or whatever, but
he's playing like it.
He's playing very well and above expectations for most people. I think it's annoying as a Packers fans how it's honoring and annoying because to be a Packers quarterback, it's almost like if you're not a top 10 quarterback of all time at this point, it's a bust. And before people like freak out at me saying that, I don't agree with that. That's what the media treats it as. Very true. You can find clips from preseason week 4 of this year where people on NFL Network are saying, did the Packers do it? Did they find another Hall of Fame quarterback? And it's like, what? Like, dude, we just want him to win 8 games and get us in the playoffs. Like, we're not thinking that far ahead. Like, this is not, at least the logical Packers fans, myself included, right?
So it's a standard. It's a standard for us specifically.
Yes, and that's the honoring part that I was going to get to. Is like, it's annoying that people put such high expectations, but also I think the high expectations are what causes us to be good. Like, like we live up to the standard because we have to. One of those things. But outside of that, man, I don't have any crazy other thoughts about this game. We talked about the Packers enough on this podcast. Main takeaway is our defense is freaking legit, man. And this Thursday against the Lions is a big game. Like, this is as big as it gets in week 4, in my opinion.
It's true.
So, you have any other thoughts?
Not really so much on the game. More or less, you got me thinking about the expectation thing. Because I feel like Chicago fans, especially with their Bears, and Philly, I mean, that comes to mind. Even New York, both New York teams, you can say, are very hostile. And I feel like Packer fans, I could be wrong, but general consensus is like, we're not very critical of our guys. And one thing I want to point out that I feel like no one is talking about is Sam Howell just threw 4 interceptions, and was terrible this weekend. But if you go on Twitter, all you see is either Justin Fields or Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson, to be honest, they still put up 20 points. Like, he didn't give up those 70 points, but it's all about relative to expectation. And you can really throw the Broncos in there with Sean Payton now. Everyone kind of thought, at least I did, they'd get a little bit better, but might be time to start offloading some stuff.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, man. We talk about the Bears enough, and I'd love to do,
This is
one
true.
day have like an in-depth analysis of why this franchise is so bad at finding quarterbacks. Because I think that's actually a large part of it is management's. And this isn't just relative to the Bears. We talked about this a couple weeks ago when it comes to like teams drafting quarterbacks too high, like in fantasy football. We use that analogy, and it's just relative to management's like confidence in themselves and ability to not be swayed by a fan base. Like if you give a fan base that power, like you're just going to be in a quarterback rotation of a circle, like the Browns were for years and the Dolphins for years, honestly, until Tua. Like there's plenty of franchises where you see it. It's like, man, since Dan Marino, who have they had? Since, one good quarterback, who have they had? The Bears, they've never had a good quarterback. And it's one of those things where it's like with Justin Fields specifically, like to me, I've never seen somebody get put in such a bad situation. He looks so much worse because of the coaching. Go put on his rookie tape. He looks better because he was in Matt Nagy's offense. Like as bad as Matt Nagy's situation was, like he looks better. Then he looks better last year. He's so hesitant. He holds onto the ball too long. Nobody gets open. He has no time. And it's one of
Right.
those things where he's going to catch the brunt of this because he was put in such a poor situation. And it's just, man, like look at what Trubisky where Trubisky was in 2018 when he was in a relatively good situation, which Matt Nagy, who I think is their best coach they've had since I would say Lovie Smith,
True.
and with the top, what were they, top two, top three defense in the league that traded for Khalil Mack that year.
Yeah.
All he had to do was do what the Packers are asking Jordan Love to do. Like that's all he had to do. And the difference with what a Packers organization does and a Bears organization does is the Bears fans and the team turns on their quarterback after one bad season.
Yeah.
The Packers are not like historically don't do that. How many times? I mean, 2005, 2006, the Packers were horrible with Brett Favre. Stuck it out because he'd been there forever. 2007, they're in the NFC Championship. Rodgers, I think, went 6-10 and then 8-8 his first 2 years, and then he won a Super Bowl in his third year. And it's
Mm.
one of those things where it's like, I just think that organizations would benefit more from stability in that position. Look at the Vikings, right? Like they've been through ups and downs with Kirk Cousins. They're in a down right now, and we'll talk about that. But I just think that organizations would benefit much more from stability in the most important leadership position on the team. How are you going to be a good team if you've got a new guy rotating in there every 2 or 3 years? So
Yeah, you can't really build a culture that way. I mean, if you keep pieces, in place, sure. The Bears, I mean, everybody's jumped off ship in terms of Khalil Mack, Roquan Smith. Not only is that defense just like stripped down, but I'd even go as far as to say is this with Justin Fields. I really think like it's something with Ohio State QBs, they don't work out, but like talent wise, let's say we swap him and Brock Purdy right now. Like, is anybody going to be really shocked if Justin Fields looks like a top, like no flaws, amazing quarterback and is running around like a madman? What Trey Lance really could have been, and Brock Purdy is struggling. Like that would not be a
yeah,
shock to anybody, but yet media and people are going to take it out of context as to say, well, Brock Purdy's the GOAT, Mr. Relevant, could barely lose his games. Jimmy Garoppolo, like his first 5 games as 49er, he won as well. Like it's a thing with the 49ers being really good, not necessarily the quarterback. And so when people are like hating on their teams or whatever, they need to stop just putting blame on the quarterback at the forefront is the biggest deal. My biggest issue on a game that's 11 on 11.
yeah,
Sorry about
yeah. Sorry, did you get a text or something?
yeah, I don't know why it's happening. not, not answering the phone, man. It's stay away from me.
um, yeah, I concur with that, man. I think that quarterbacks and fan bases expectations play a bigger role than people realize. Especially with franchises like the Bears,
Yeah.
Browns, Texans, historical poor franchises.
Imagine
Um,
going to work every day without a good pair of boots, a terrible supervisor, and you have to work 12-hour shifts every day.
yeah,
It's not going to be, you're not going to look as good as the guy who does his 8 hours, as a great guy that's managing him and has all the right equipment to work with. Like,
yeah. And
I
we can.
can't.
I think that we should save more Bears talk for next week because I do want to
Oh,
see
yeah.
play the Broncos next week, and that's where I think we're actually going to gauge how bad it actually
How
is.
many goals? I
Like,
can't.
like if the Packers are a playoff team or a bubble playoff team, and the Chiefs are the Chiefs, I forget who they played in week 2, but or they played the Bucks, who are still undefeated as of this recording. So it's one of those things where it's like we'll be able to gauge when they play the Broncos how bad it actually is. Like, are they 0-17, 0-16, materials here? Or are they going to win another? We said at the start of the year, within 5, 6, 7 games, we thought they'd take a step forward. It looks like they've taken a massive step back. So next week would be a good gauge of that. But let's dive in. We've talked about the Dolphins a little bit, their historic game. What are your thoughts? 70-20 against the Broncos. Where are we at on either side of the coin for either team here?
Well, shout out to Mike McDaniel. That man, all of my leagues, all 4 of my leagues, I've won this week. I mean, theoretically, unless something crazy happens. And that's putting faith in his offense. I've got a lot of Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert in a dynasty league. Like this, and that's my thing on the yay, hoorah. But people really need to take note on what he's doing. Okay, you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, who arguably are both the fastest receivers in the NFL. Like, you think guys that might be up there in speed, it's maybe DK Metcalf, but it's a short list. And then you think of their running back room. Raheem Mostert is one of the fastest 40-time running backs. Like, you clock him on the next, he's running 22, 23 miles per hour. And then Devon Chen is another addition to that kind of need for speed offense, where if you saw some of these throws like Tyreek Hill, I love Tua, and he's playing very well. But it's just what we talked about with the environment, system, coaching, all that. That he is scheming guys open more than I've probably ever seen in my life.
Oh, it's so fun. It's so pretty to watch.
It is Tyreek Hill is clearly the best receiver in the NFL, and he might have the best offensive play caller in the NFL right now. I think I'm just going to say it because of what I'm seeing in
Hey
first.
man, I bought the stock last week, man. You're welcome to join the club.
Did I not put any in? If I didn't put anything in, I'm putting some in today because I think I probably hit my 5 limit. But I've always loved Mike McDaniel since when he got hired. So whenever, if I can buy a free level of stock, all right. Well, that's gonna be my first purchase today.
You did.
For sure.
I put a full confidence all in on Mike McDaniel winning Coach of the Year in Super Bowl at some point in his life. That's looking like it could really cash right now. The price is sky high. Yeah, I'll take my profits. But I want to say this about Tyreek Hill. Like, I read an article about this earlier today. Let's rewind time a little bit. Pre-Patrick Mahomes, let's go back to the Alex Smith, Andy Reid Chiefs, circa 2016, 2017, right? Tyreek Hill bursts onto the scene as this real Andy Reid perfect gadget guy, right? He wasn't your stereotypical receiver. He's not built like Randy Moss. He's not built like your outside guy Jerry Rice or any Terrell Owens, especially at that time. Antonio Brown, Julio Jones were big guys at that time. He's somewhat similar to Antonio Brown, but Antonio Brown was a more complete receiver.
Oh man, running back, man.
Yeah. So Andy Reid finds a way to utilize this guy's Olympic level speed, literally. And he bursts onto the scene as this star punt returner and gadget guy. I remember I had him. I had Tyreek Hill on my fantasy team for the first 4 years of his career. And then he took a leap and became a top 5 pick. He used to be this 3rd or 4th round guy that I would just steal every year because no one would put any respect on him. Well, he's good for 3 wins because he's going to go for 30 points. But he wasn't as consistent. And that was the thing. He was not as consistent back then. He would have his big blow-up games. And Mahomes came on the scene, and in year 1 or 2 of Mahomes, he turned into a top 5 receiver in the league, and he was consistent. Then he went to the Dolphins, and Mike McDaniel got his hands on him. So you went from Andy Reid, who you can make an argument is the greatest coach of all time, in my opinion, especially offensively. Now you go to Mike McDaniel, who we both feel very strongly and speak very highly of. He's been a benefactor of 2 incredible coaches. And now he's in a situation where he's the number 1 receiver on the number 1 offense, and an offense unlike any other offense we've ever seen. And the way that Mike McDaniel is scheming him open is so fascinating. He's basically created a new type of motion. If you paid attention to this, like nobody has ever done like
Arena League
yeah,
is the
basically it's
closest thing
arena
you can
football.
get to Arena League. Yeah, and that when you have the speed that he does, when you have all the fastest players and you can do arena stuff where guys are getting in full sprint before they get off the line of scrimmage, yeah, that's a problem.
How do you, and here's the thing from a defensive perspective, it's like, how can we slow down Tyreek Hill, right? Okay, we can double him. We'll get a guy to get hands on him on the line. Okay, well, the latter of that is the easiest way to slow somebody down. You can't do that when he's starting his route while he's in motion, coming across the entire formation, and he's running full speed, and you're standing still guarding him. He's at the 10-yard mark and coming off that motion and running his dig, his out, his post, whatever he wants at full speed. It's I can't like fathom how hard this would be to guard. Like it is truly an innovation that is going to change the way football is played moving forward. This is like West Coast offense levels of innovation. Like this is, we talk about like Manning and Brady, like evolving the quarterback position. This is going to evolve the receiver position over time, if it hasn't already. And this is the copycat league. Like this, he's being schemed open, and it's not just him. Because look at the way their run game was so effective yesterday with two running backs who aren't even like these top tier backs, right? They're just you got a rookie. It was Devon Achan's first game ever, or I think he played one snap last week. He went for 200 yards and 4 touchdowns in his second game of his career. It's just like I cannot speak highly enough for their offensive schematics. I really can't. And I'm willing to swallow the pill already from my preseason take of them, missing the playoffs. Like that is clearly a miss at this point. They look phenomenal. Defenses have not figured them out, and I don't know if they will be able to by the end of this year.
It's because by the end of this year, I just don't know what kind of adjustment or wrinkle you could put in your playbook to account for guys like that. Because like Jalen Waddle didn't even play. That's what we're even talking. Like, what happens if he plays? Is it 90? Because Pat Surtain is, a lot of people, Pro Football Focus especially would argue he's the best corner right now. And he let up the most yards in his career yesterday because Tyreek Hill, I think he's clearly like the best receiver in the league. It's just a matter of how far is this going to go? Because I even heard rumblings he's somebody that wants to retire early. That can always change. But I think he even said it himself. Like, he's trying to play and then get some money, and then he's going to kind of do some other things, maybe go to the Olympics, But man, it's something to watch. We might be watching like a historic season here, like
and here's the thing that I forgot about, right? Is if the Dolphins don't have the injury problems that they had last year, especially with Tua, which started as early as like week 3, if I recall, like
they could have made a run.
They were rolling, and then they had those injury bugs, finished 9-8, and lost to the playoffs with a back quarterback out there. And it's like, dude, if they stay healthy, why did we forget? Why, me personally, why did I forget about this? Like, how did I miss this? And it's one of those things where I don't know how I missed it, but I'm glad I got the stock in last week on my game because it's good.
It's booming.
Business. Yeah, business is booming in this economy, man. We are on the rise. We are seeing green numbers on the return sheet. But
yes, sir.
I do want to add this too. Okay, the last time an NFL team, for those of you who didn't get to watch the game, you missed history. I've never seen this in my entire life because the last time an NFL team scored 70 points was November 27th, 1966, before the Super Bowl ever was played. I believe the first Super Bowl was that season in January of 1967 was the very first Super Bowl ever played. So there's been one 70-point game in the last
57 years.
Yeah, 57 years, man. And the final of that game was 72-41. The Dolphins had a chance and decided not to kick a field goal and break the all-time scoring record yesterday.
Wow. Classy by Mike McDaniel to do that, by the way. He could have totally buried them. But I think he even knew the point. Like they were dead. They were dead in the first half. Like as he put it, like, hopefully good karma comes our way or whatever. Like maybe, but what if, I think of the history books and we say 57 years. This might, like, 50 years from now just get swept under the rug if more people get to 70. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I mean a
Like,
little
how
bit.
much
Yeah.
is it? Like, is it really that bad? Like, it's already embarrassing the Broncos gave up 70. Is 73 really that much worse than even like 77? Like you got destroyed. Like Sean Payton knew it. That one reporter, like, I don't know if you saw the interview. Yeah, it's like, so, historic day, only a couple teams in NFL history have given up 70 points. Sean Payton's like, so is there a question? Like,
Dude,
oh,
yeah. What are your thoughts on the Broncos from here on out? Like, I know you put some stock into Russ last week, invested there, which is a hot take at the time, knowing your
it's
history with Russ. But
no, it's hot, but it doesn't. At this point last year, I think we were gearing up for like their Thursday night game against the Colts, where they dropped like
oh,
6 points. All right, and they still put up 20. I'm not gonna say it was like this superstar great performance from Russ. I'm just kind of hoping that Sean Payton finds a way to turn him around. I think that defense might be chalked though. Like it's a wrap.
which I did not expect.
It either,
They
but
were solid unit last year, right? And it's just like, what was the change? And
and maybe we talk about, people getting figured out and whatnot. Maybe that was it. Like maybe they just didn't get a change. Maybe it was just that we got so focused on Sean Payton in the offense that defense just might be very bare bones.
yeah. And it's very hard, in my opinion. People underestimate this. To have a solid defense sustained from year to year is one of the hardest things to do in the NFL. There's so much position turnover that like people just don't know because they don't know the star players on defense and whatnot.
Yep.
So when teams consistently have like solid defenses with the same key pieces year to year, it should not be underrated. I think like the Palomalo, Steelers, the
Oh, yeah.
Ravens, who were like top 10 units year in and year out. Same thing with basically every defense Bill Belichick's ever coached in New England. Like,
Yeah.
and that elevates your team. So it's just hard. Look at the Jets this year, man. That's my statement. Is like these people were very high on them, and I think that they have not really played up to their expectation, especially given the fact that they now need to because of their quarterback situation. So
True. True.
that's one of the hardest things to do. But we got a couple other games we want to touch on. Let's move on to a little bit. Let's move on to the Vikings Chargers. This is one of our big highlights. Games to watch last week. We wrote down who would be a worse 0-3 start, Vikings or the Chargers, and we kind of all agreed that the Chargers being 0-3 would be worse than the Vikings. And here we are. What are your thoughts?
Well, the Twitter rumblings of Kirk to the Jets are getting louder as, according to Pardon My Take, I guess the Jets are interested in the idea, somebody from their camp. I just feel bad for Kirk, I think, is my honest takeaway. Like the man, yes, the interception at the end was bad, but like
The tipped ball, yeah.
he's doing
The
so
drop that was
well.
tipped, yeah.
Right. Like he's doing so well in spite of everything around him. And he's in this point of his career where he's just been like extremely reliable. Like we talk about Fields and what he's doing, but like I think Kirk is one of those guys, you plug him into the Bears, they still would be 0-3 because so are the Vikings, but I think Kirk could probably still find 300 yards or so with DJ Moore. He's been very surgical. He looks great. It's just the Vikings, like everything out, they can't keep the ball. Like they either fumble it or it's a drop that turns into an interception. Defense can't get off the field. It's just everything else but him. So it's unfortunate, but it looks like Brandon Staley, this might be a hot take, might not be the first one fired if Justin Herbert and Kellen Moore can save his job, because
Again,
Justin Herbert 40 for 47 is I don't know what says more about Kellen Moore or Brian Flores just has nothing to work with on the Vikings defense, because he's a good DC in my opinion.
he's had good success. I would lean towards there's nothing. I mean, what is there?
aging
personnel-wise.
Harrison
I'm pretty
Smith.
sure Harrison Smith is 35.
Yeah,
He's still there.
I think Dean Lowry. I don't know if you remember that guy.
That
It's
that unit
preference.
needs a revamp. I mean, they're still running it with starters from like that 2017 like team. Isn't Eric Kendricks still there? Like it's
I don't
like
think so, but I mean, I wouldn't be shocked. Like,
Daniil Hunter's still there. I don't know where Everson Griffin is these
yeah.
days, but yeah, there's some old dudes out there playing defense for the Vikings. It's a problem. This was a big win for the Chargers, in my opinion. They needed it more than the Vikings. The Vikings, I, I just it goes back to what we said. It's regression to the mean. 11-0 in one score games. They lose a one score playoff game. They're now 0-3 in one score games to start this season. The stat of the year that I saw was that the entire season last year, the Vikings had 8 lost fumbles. Through 3 games, they have 7.
How does that?
7 lost
How does
fumbles in
that
3 games. Unbelievable. Unbelievable how many turnovers this team had. And it's so uncharacteristic from where they are last year. I don't know how many picks off the top of my head Kirk has thrown. I mean, I know he threw one at the end of the game. It wasn't, again, not his fault. TJ Hockenson dropped it. Then it got tipped off some dude's helmet. And then it was a diving catch off the tip. Like, what do you do if you're the quarterback, man? Not his fault. And it's just one of those things where this team, it's almost like they're cursed this year for what they were able to accomplish last year. I mean, talk about it's an aggressive regression to the mean, man. Like it's just a total change of fate for no reason at all. And what's crazy is I don't think they're out of this divisional race. I think you've got, teams that are mediocre, not going to win 14 games and run away with this thing, right? Like I don't think the Lions are going to do that. I don't think the Packers are going to do that. If they can win a couple of big divisional games against those two teams, I think they're in the hunt. They've got to win a lot of games to be 0-3 and make the playoffs is difficult, right?
It's
But
an uphill battle now?
yeah,
To be honest, I mean, Packers already got 2 games, and I know we play the Bears again once, so that's gonna be a win. And there's some more easy ones on the schedule, like the NFC South is one of the divisions we play this year. Um, but I hear you, man. I hear you. I think the chart, Keenan Allen, man, are we gonna kind of
go
his? I don't
ahead.
want to say revival,
I'm a little
but
salty. I don't really want to. I kind of got dusted by him in fantasy this week in a couple of leagues. So
it's fair enough because honestly, he's not a guy I feel like a lot of fantasy like veterans would have picked. Just the rise of Mike Williams. They drafted Quentin Johnson this year. They had Joshua Palmer. I was just not sure if Keenan Allen really had his like name in the hat, if you will. I mean, he's always hurt, but
yeah, Mike Williams is now out for the year.
yeah. So that means, I
Torn
mean,
pec, I think, or something like that.
if Keenan Allen on your fantasy team right now, you have to be ecstatic. I mean, is it early to say that might be a league winner if you drafted him and you have the right team? Because at the value of the round he was going, you just got a probably top 5 fantasy receiver. He's like top 2 or 3 right now, like in
Yeah.
scoring. I don't know if that's gonna hold all year, but man,
No, I agree. I agree. Um, and it's one of those things where I just didn't see it coming. We'll see if he stays healthy. Like that's been the Chargers' problem all these years. And now Mike Williams is out for the year, and Austin Eckler's missed 2 games. Like it's the same old story, right? Like what's new? And it's just like, man, this is the same team that punctured Tyrod Taylor's lung. Man, like they really need to hire a new team doctor or a team trainer because this is a problem. This is an epidemic.
it reminds me of the Ravens and Titans too, how they always felt their injured reserve like every year. But the Chargers, I think of I don't know why the Tyrod Taylor thing got me in this like kind of conspiracy mode. Some people say that the doctor did intentionally to like for like the stock of the Chargers organization, they needed Justin Herbert to play right away and the coach wouldn't. Anyway, I'm hearing that, and there's might be some traction to this because I guess JC Treader, who's the head of the NFL Players Association, said that running backs might need to get smart and whatever and think of ways to show their leverage or their value. And I see Saquon Barkley out with like a week to week thing, Austin Eckler with like a week to week thing. Aaron Jones, I hear, oh, he might play this week, and he's been out.
Nick
Are
Chubb. No, I'm kidding.
they too soon. But literally a week from today. I maybe that was I made up, but there's kind of a theme. I don't know if you've noticed of like these kind of ticky tacky.
I just don't know. We had this discussion, I think over text, or I had this discussion with somebody after the Nick Chubb injury. Like, I
Yeah,
don't know if playing these day-to-day injuries for leverage helps them, because Austin Eckler specifically is the guy who has a job as an undrafted guy who took over for Melvin Gordon in a holdout, right? And we all know how the
yeah,
Le'Veon, like, if it weren't for Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell, and Melvin Gordon, they wouldn't be in this problem, and Zeke as well. Like, Zeke was the last big running back to get paid of kind of that last era, and it didn't work out. So now teams see that they're hesitant to invest into this position that's so injury prone. When a guy like Nick Chubb is clearly, in my opinion, the best running back in football right now, and this happens, and you have money invested in him, and now he's gone, and Jerome Ford shows up, scores 2 touchdowns, and does this, you really ask yourself, like, how much value is in this position? So to play these day-to-day injuries, I don't know if that really helps them.
I would agree. I would agree. Yeah,
My opinion on how it should be fixed is that the NFL should restructure how rookie running back contracts work. They should make them shorter, and then you re-sign after 2 years or something like that.
sure.
Something weird where, or they make them more incentive based for every rookie running back, so that they are making more in their first 4 years than any other position. And then they have the opportunity to resign. That would be how I would fix the issue. But that's going to require, I mean, they just went through a collective bargaining agreement. I don't know if that's going to change, right? Like, there's no way that's going to change for another 10 years. So they're kind of in a bad spot, like, if I'm a running back, right? And it's going to impact the game. But yeah, it's a decent thought, but I'd be shocked to be
No,
off the field to use your leverage. Like, I don't know if that's
not
helping
that
them.
right. And yeah, when you really look at the broad scope, if that were something, it would be very counteractive. If they're trying to prove a point, it would prove the opposite point because running backs are the most replaceable position. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate, but look at the Eagles. I mean, they could, I'm pretty sure they could hand it off to some high school backs and those backs could get 100 yards. Wouldn't be on a great average, but it's, that's again just the environment and running backs in terms of the value list right now, like linemen, their value for contract goes up. Quarterbacks are at peak because of how hard it is to find a quarterback. When your position is just easier to find, you unfortunately just don't get paid. It's just market value. Sorry, it stinks. They do take a huge beating on their bodies, and like you wish they could get paid more. But like you just said, with the collective bargaining agreement, I mean, business is business, and business in America, especially right now, is not booming. So I don't really see that changing anytime soon, unfortunately.
It's an interesting off-season discussion, because you look at other positions who the rise of elite wide receivers and big contracts, I think right now is the trend, and I just wouldn't be shocked if finding that level of receiver in 5-7 years, when you have a new crop of talent coming through who grew up watching Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, the market shifts back to, like, oh, there's a rarity of really elite running backs and offensive linemen, so we're going to pay them more, and it's just this kind of never ending secular motion of where the money's going to build elite rosters.
Yeah,
Um, and you can say the same thing about pass rushers right now. That is like the number one thing. Whereas not too long ago, your defense was set if you had Deion Sanders or Darrell Revis on it, or if you had Ed Reed or Troy Polamalu, and that was the key position. And now, how many top tier safeties do we name as superstar defensive players? Like Minka Fitzpatrick, maybe. Derwin
right.
James, in my opinion, has fallen off. Jamal Adams has fallen off. In terms of being this high level player, I don't think that exists. We talk about T.J. Watt, Myles Garrett, J.J. Watt, all these other Micah Parsons, these pass rushers that are the stars on defense, and that's another secular thing of just where the money's going because the value's there.
Definitely, definitely.
Let's pivot. Let's pivot a little bit. Let's talk about the biggest shock of the week, in
Mm,
my opinion. Man, it just always It never fails to make me smile to see the Cowboys lose.
How about them Cowboys?
It's so bad, man. What are your thoughts? Cowboys fall 28-16 to the Josh Dobbs led Arizona Cardinals.
Wow. So for the Cowboys' sake, bad game that the Cardinals definitely capitalized on. That I didn't expect them to. When I had to view the Cardinals this year, I thought of like the Texans of last year, the Browns of so many years, the Lions of like centuries. They were going to be a couple win at best team. And that still might be the case. But not only has Josh Dobbs surprised me, which I can't believe I'm saying that on week 3 of the NFL season, but here we are. I'm going to go as far as say this. I don't think getting Caleb Williams is going to help this team at all. I think they actually would be better off if they get the pick trading it or just hopefully getting it at 2 or 3 and getting one of the better overall players on the board. Because what I saw was Jonathan Gannon is it not only because this happened to the Cowboys, but this happened to the Giants. The Giants found a way to win, and it happened to the Commanders. Excuse me, almost got it. They all 3 of those teams had problems with the Cardinals defense, and they were trying to offload. They dumped Isaiah Simmons for like a cheap pick. Buda Baker was in conversations of like getting traded. JJ Watt and Chandler Jones have been gone. So personally, I don't have a whole lot of names to come to mind on the Cardinals defense, which is why I know it's early. I know he's only 3 weeks into his tenure there, but I think Jonathan Gannon is probably the right guy for this job. And yeah, I think you get Kyler Murray back next year. Kind of have to ride out his contract right now as is, but just build the team and see what happens. Because if they go like 7 games here with Josh Dobbs, I think with Kyler Murray, we could see back to the Cardinals before Cliff Kingsbury just started to fall off a cliff.
Yeah. Till Rasul Douglas ended his career.
Yeah. And just if they keep Kyler away from Call of Duty, I'm bringing that one back. They need to make a garbage COD this
oh man, I forgot about those Kyler memes. I'm in the same thought process like with Kyler. I don't know why everybody assumes that they're tanking and they would take Caleb Williams. Like they signed this guy to a 5-year extension for however many $1 million, and he really sure he had a bad year, and you have your locker room cancer question marks and whatnot, and sure if that's true, then sure find a guy who fits your mold. But I feel like if that was the case, like they would have traded Kyler now, or they will trade him after this year, like while his value is high. Because if he comes out and stinks again, he's on this massive contract, like who's gonna buy that, right? Like, what did the Texans do with Deshaun Watson, who seemed to have fleeced the Browns at this point because he's not playing great? They traded him when he wasn't playing because he had higher value, and it was the question of, well, last time we saw this guy, he was pretty good. And we know his capability, not what and it's more of a potential question than like being able to see what you're getting. I just don't see motivation for them to pick a quarterback. I agree. They've got bigger holes. Their defense is solid, but way better than I expected. And, the roster is not bad. That's the thing. You get Kyler Murray back, you have an average quarterback. You still got Hollywood Brown. You offloaded the DeAndre Hopkins situation. James Conner has been a stud this year. I mean, he's going for almost 100 yards every game. I don't. If the defense is going to be decent, I don't think that they're that bad of a team. That's the funny part. But as for the Cowboys, man, this is just what we've come to expect. Like I don't know what else to say. This is why when they beat the Giants 40-0 in week 1, as the guy who put the Giants in the Super Bowl, my statement was, I'm not concerned about the Cowboys moving forward. Like, sure, you got your worries with the Eagles, but this is just what they do. Trayvon Diggs tears his ACL in practice. They're out for the year. That's a big loss. He's one of the better corners, and his turnover ratio is great. He gets the most turnovers in the league in the cornerback position. Yeah, that's valuable. And sure enough, what happened to the defense? They just did not look like themselves. And it's just weird because you think like if they lost Micah Parsons, it'd be a huge loss, right? Much more important position than corner. Well, they just didn't. They had a rough game. So maybe they bounce back. Maybe they missed his leadership in the secondary or something. I don't know. When you lose your best cornerback, you don't know how much communication is going on from a defensive perspective, who's taking his position. And that takes time. There's so much communication that goes into playing in an NFL defense. That takes time.
Yeah.
This is just an inexcusable loss, in my opinion. And it's just what I've come to expect from the Cowboys since Jimmy Johnson left. It's,
Jeez, yeah, that is a true statement. I mean, it's really been since Jimmy Johnson. The guy many of you see, or is he even on Fox anymore?
I think he retired. I don't know if he is. Yeah.
But he was on there for years. I mean, he was been retired from the Cowboys, and that is their last time of actual relevancy. It's kind of nuts. But I always have to say, how you doing? Keep it moving, because we've set. I feel like we're gonna have, if we do this podcast for 5, 10 years, we will always have a Cowboys game to talk about like this every single year, if not 3. I mean, even with like they'll have 13, 12 wins, but then you look at some losses and you're like, how? Like what was Dak doing? Like what did they Cowboys stuff, man.
They'll be fine. And that's the thing is like they're still going to be a playoff team. But this is just a loss they don't need on their schedule when it comes to seeding and stuff. Like it was just unnecessary, and it's just, yeah. I'm glad I'm not a Cowboys fan, man. Like I said, that's my state. Last game I really want to talk about. We could spend a little bit of time on it, but we had briefly mentioned Minshew Mania last weekend or last week on Monday, talking about Anthony Richardson probably sitting out and how Gardner Minshew might deserve a starting spot in this league. We had a small discussion about it. What are your thoughts on the Gardner Minshew stock price right now, man? Like, gets a win against the AFC, the Ravens, who we had as probably the number one team in the AFC so far this year, headed into this week. Now I have the Dolphins, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, and that is, I'm probably going to put a like 3-level stock into Minshew in the we'll call it the Chase Daniel, Chad Henne, Charlie Whitehurst category of a clipboard messiah. This man he can hold down your backup position as long as he's in the league. We see it. And I know I have to clarify that stock because let's face it, I mean, when Richardson comes back, it's his team. But
you're confident.
Right. I just think it's really weird to me that, and I love Baker Mayfield, but how I just feel like Gardner Minshew gets overlooked. Like he really could be starting for a lot of teams right now and could maybe even solve some of these bad quarterback rooms. He was doing fine with the Jags. He was just in a bad situation. Go check the numbers with people that don't believe me. The guy was doing just fine. It was just everything around him. And at times, that's just what organizations do. They're like, all right, well, we got the first pick quarterback. Saw it with Cardinals with Josh Rosen. So I was advising the Cardinals not do it again with Caleb Williams. You learn from your mistake. And I'm hoping Minshew at least just gets a spot somewhere, man, next season. But he might just be in this backup role, is like very reliable, just the Frank Reich of Frank Reichs.
Yeah, doesn't turn the ball over. 27 for 44, 227. They ran Zach Moss, and hey, you want to talk about the running backs not being on the field situation and how that hinders their value.
Yep.
Zach Moss, 30 carries, 122 yards, averaged 4 yards a carry. And I don't, he had a receiving touchdown, 2 for 23 and through the air. Look, man, not helping Jonathan Taylor's contract value.
Right? I want 2 leagues. I don't know if I want him back. I think I'd rather keep my handcuff in Zach Moss. Like now the way he's playing and the way Jonathan Taylor last looked. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where holding out, is that really helping you right now? Like, I know he doesn't want to play for that organization. That's a more unique situation. Yeah. But I can't help but wonder, man. Jonathan Taylor, Le'Veon Bell, Melvin Gordon situation here, Bruin. Like,
Gordon,
Yeah, people forget about that Melvin Gordon Chargers like
he was good.
season.
He was
He was incredible. Holds out for a big contract, never was the same. And the birth of Austin Eckler.
yeah.
And it's just running back economic situation is a growing headline. It's gaining traction in national media, which is good for them, but also, you know, it's a subject of debate that I think that I just don't see how they've come out on top. I don't see the value, right? In today's NFL league, in 10 years, maybe. Like I said, maybe the game continues to evolve and we go back to this bell cow era of backs. But I don't know.
Right now, the
I don't
debt
know.
values in the toilet.
Yeah.
It's like I don't even know what to compare it to, so I'm just not. It's low. It's lower
Yeah.
than I've ever seen, position wise in the NFL. But we'll see. Like you said, we've talked about it a lot. Times a change, like they really do throughout the NFL history. It's a copycat league. I feel like it's the biggest.
Yeah. It's a common phrase, but it's true. Like it's a
Terrible.
copycat league. What's your thoughts on the Ravens here? They were kind of rolling through two games. This is a loss that, in my opinion, if the Bengals come out tonight and look like the Bengals and win this game, this is a big loss for the Ravens. Like I really, this division's going to be tight. Every game is going to matter. And to fall to 2-1 instead of 3-0, you had the game-winning 61-yarder with Justin Tucker, and he comes up short of all things.
Yeah.
This is going to matter down the road, man. I just can't help but wonder. The Steelers moved to 2-1. The Browns, I think, are 2-1 as well. I'd have to double check that.
Yeah. Are they?
And so the Bengals are, if they go to 0-3, okay, wow, you got a really uphill battle. That's when I would press the panic button on the Bengals. We'll talk about that next week. But where's the hand on the panic button meter for the Ravens?
Really not for me at all. Just due to the fact that we talk about like games and losses mattering. I mean, I feel like the Bengals dropping these first two were more impact. Like those were like the division game to the Browns, and the way they lost that's going to really be a big deal. It didn't really. I think the shocking part, yeah, was Justin Tucker coming up short. But it is a 61-yard try. Like he's the only player I think when that happened. Like I'm like, oh, I thought he was going to make it. Like anyone else in that
That's so
situation
true.
is probably you're hoping for a miracle and you're going nuts if that goes in. It's not. I guess a lot of people are coming at the Ravens play calling and whatever and not looking the same. But like they've had so many injuries that you kind of unfortunately have to run a more vanilla offense when you can't have the same personnel on the field every week to week. Like Melvin Gordon's going to be their starting running back again at some point, probably by like week 4 or 5, like the way they are going through running backs. And he was on their practice squad, like a late addition. It's just a team that they cannot stop from putting guys on injured reserve. And that showed. But I mean, kudos to the Colts for staying alive in that division. I just think it's a healthy loss. Like they didn't look really bad. They struggled in areas where you'd expect them to with injuries. But like you said, these especially in tiebreakers, we saw it a lot with the Packers, Lions, Seahawks thing. Like those losses may matter down the line, but the Colts may sneaking in as wild card.
Yeah, man. Colts at 2-1. I'd be tempted to throw some capital. I would be. I put some money in Anthony
Especially
Richardson.
after last season, kind of, it'd be a good
Man.
story.
Yeah, I don't know if you're right. I don't think I'm throwing any capital their way, actually, after last season, man.
Different group, different than Matt Ryan and Jeff Saturday going to Shane Steichen and Anthony.
Hey, man, don't sleep on Jeff Saturday. That
I'm
man
going
was a
to sleep.
winner. He was a winner.
He only beat Daniels. He beat the biggest loser. Like, congrats. I love Jeff Saturday. No, Jim Irsay. I know why Jonathan Taylor is like Jim Irsay. It's probably for that. Like, he just
Oh man, I remember seeing the headlines. Jeff Saturday had to trade his entire fantasy team. He had to hand it off to somebody else because he can't legally be playing fantasy football and be a head coach. It was
imagine that. Imagine getting a call. You have to say
How do you
goodbye.
say no? Like, what was the downside for him in that situation too? It's like, oh, let's try it out. If I'm good, I'm good. If I suck, well, now I know. It was a win-win for him. Like, oh, do I want to
No
coach in the
lose.
NFL? Do I know? Let's find out. I got a couple weeks.
Yeah.
For a trial
Good.
run.
Hey, good for him, man. It's carrying the
Yeah.
back.
Good for him, man. All right, let's move in. Let's revisit the segment that we debuted last week, buy, sell, hold, where we basically have created an imaginary stock market and we trade takes, coaches, players, anything we want. We buy, sell, trade, or hold these holdings or these stocks. Um, I'll give the floor to you. We get one purchase this week to continue to build out our portfolio. Eventually, that'll be capped, and we'll have to be selling and trading things. But last week we debuted. We bought 5 things each. I'll give you a chance to buy your 6 or sell something as well. Would you like a reminder on your current holdings or no?
I'm actually good because I had a guy I'm going to buy because I think he's going very under the radar, which is kind of crazy to say when I say the name. That name is Davante Adams. This dude literally had 14 catches for 170 yards and 2 touchdowns with a poverty head coach. Like, I will keep saying it until McDaniels, and you will echo, not you will shout it from the rooftops. This guy needs to go. Like, any Devonte Adams is such a good receiver, and he's getting now overshadowed, rightfully so, with Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, those guys have been doing. But it's like even in fantasy draft boards, felt like Jamar Chase was above him, and he was almost getting phased out of like that top 5 conversation. When Devonte Adams as a player can go head to head with Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson if he's in the right
Yeah.
system. We've seen it when he had Aaron Rodgers. He had like almost 20 touchdowns in a season. Like, he's with Jimmy G and McDaniels. But yet, even like last night was an example of the player he still is and is going to be. So I'm gonna put probably a 2.5 level stock. Really, the half is because I really love Devontae Adams for his time with the Packers. But I just don't know with receivers how these things go. When you go to the Raiders, your career kind of dies. Ask Antonio Brown. It's things like I am kind of leery just for that reason. But Devontae Adams as the player is still what he is to me.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I'm not going to sell anything either. I do have a couple reports on my holdings that I would like to just run a small victory lap on. That being Mike McDaniel to win Coach of the Year in Super Bowl in his career. That was a great buy last week. That was great. My Anthony Richardson holding, TBD still TBD. It's a long term buy, but man, that Jordan Love purchase, that's prices are booming, man. The prices are booming
Prices.
for we are doing well. The only thing we're struggling with is Derek Carr to make the playoffs twice in his career in New Orleans. That one's not looking great, but it was a one confidence purchase. And the Lawrence Calvin Ridley duo did have a rough week again. Expecting a bounce back week, and we will be solid down in Jacksonville. Hopefully we're not looking at a loss there. I'm still fairly confident. The purchase this week, I'm gonna come out and say 2 confidence level. Okay, I was high on this guy in the preseason. I remain confident, and I think that right now is the absolute perfect time to buy. I think the price after this week is as low as it's going to get for the entire season. And I'm just buying a simple player. I'm going to read his stats from the previous week and just reflect on why I believe the price is low. All right. His team got blown out. All right. He's a quarterback, had a tough matchup. However, their team is 2-1. This was their only loss of the year. Overperforming so far. As a coach, may or may not be on the hot seat. Coaches express high confidence in him. All right. This week, he did throw 4 interceptions.
Damn, how?
He threw 4 interceptions this week. I would like to pull up his week 2 stats. Okay. He had 170 passing yards this week, 19 of 29. His week 2 stats, in which this Commanders won. All right. Sam Howell is the guy. You did guess correct. Let me pull up his week 2 stats. They beat the Broncos 35-33 in a thriller, winning close games, right? This is why I'm investing at this point. I think the stock price is very low after the Bills blowout, and this feels like a buy opportunity that might not be there. right? After COVID, when the whole stock market tanked, and it was like, why didn't I buy, right? You've seen the memes. Why didn't I know to purchase real estate in 2009 when I was in third grade? That's where we're at with Sam Howell right now, right?
Okay.
Last week, let's not forget, 27 of 39, 299 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's a pretty good game, man. No interceptions. No interceptions. Let's rewind to week 1, man. Like, I've done my research on this stock. I want that to be known. I've done my research on this stock. Rewind to week 1, grinds out another close win, winning close games, which you want out of a young quarterback. 20-16 win over the Cardinals, who we now have decided are better than we initially thought, right? Especially defensively. Let me pull up his stats. 200 yards, 19 of 31, a touchdown and an interception, right? Grinding out close wins. That's what we want in a quarterback. I think the price is low. I've made it very clear. I'm buying some stock. Too confident in Sam Howell. That's it. Just gonna. I don't know if this is going to be a short-term hold. I think we're going for a swing here, a little swing trade. Probably going to be dealing this within this season. Probably won't be holding throughout the off season. But Sam Howell stock purchased today, 925.23. I'm too confident. I don't want to say 3 because I have 3 other things as 3 confidence. Otherwise, I would be pretty confident in this trade. But I don't make purchases if I'm not confident, man. That's
I got 4 reasons why I'm not confident, but hey, that's I see it. It is definitely his stock is definitely drops. It's a good time to buy.
Price is low, man. It's at a discount. What can I really lose, right? Like what,
Say that now.
The Broncos said that once, but
yeah, yeah. How many more games can it really go on like this? Oh, it can go
on. So that concludes our buy sell hold, and we that'll be as we continue to build out our portfolios. That'll be something that we hold each other accountable for week to week. Things that I don't think we have anything crazy on. I would go after your Russell Wilson take, but your buy last week. But honestly, I when the defense gives up 70 points, like what is there for me to go after, man? It's not his fault. It's like for once. And you know what? Looking at Jake's takes too, like there's yes, Colts to win AFC South this year. Like that's an incredible buy. They just beat the Ravens.
Great, yeah, that's
and the trade of the year might end up being Jefferson and Hill over 2,000 receiving yards. That'll be.
I'm glad I put some stock in that.
That'll be a buy and a half. But all right, let's move into week 4 here. Let's predict our gains for week 4. I still don't. I've been thinking all day what I want to do for this, and I want to hear you convince me to do this. So Thursday night football, Lions are coming into Lambeau Field, man. I've got a history of picking against the Packers. I know you're taking the Packers. I took the Packers this week. I want to know, is the curse lifted? Am I safe to take the Packers here, or should I play it safe and take the Lions?
I
also think it's going to be a good game too.
Right. I'm going to assume you're safe, but one thing I learned about this week is sometimes I know a lot and sometimes I know absolutely nothing. And the Packers game itself was a time where I know absolutely nothing because I shut it off. I literally was like, this game's done. We're 1-2. See you next week. So I know it's not a very convincing argument, but I would say this Packers team has found a way. And ironically enough, without Aaron Jones, Christian Watson, David Bakhtiari, and Elgin Jenkins, that's like literally every key contributor we have that's not a young player right now. So for Jordan Love to be balling the way he is, it can literally only go up from here. So not only is it a great stock, but the Lions kind of, I don't want to say like falling off because that's not the right word. They haven't like impressed me as much after that week 1 Chiefs win. I mean, again, it's a team that I was kind of thought was overperforming, but that's this team like we might split with. I just think in Lambeau, the way the Packers have been going after they got such a good win in high energy win in Lambeau, I'm going to keep taking them. I mean, I always take them.
I think you've sold me, and it ain't hard to sell me on buying Packers stock for a week. Fair. But I'll take the Packers to win this game, and maybe not for the reasons you said, but the more I think about it, you're right. The Lions have not looked great. I don't know if they get David Montgomery back. That actually would be a big gain for them. I don't know his injury timeline off the top of my head. I could be way off. It might be out weeks. I'm way uneducated on that. But
What are your thoughts on Gibbs? I know it's early, but I have to ask because he's unfortunately, I think I had too high of expectations for him coming in. I think I was thinking more of like Bijan level right away, and he's just not there.
well, look, he was what was he, a third round pick? I think that
He was
fantasy.
the first round
Oh,
pick.
sorry, third round fantasy pick is what I was.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think that fantasy owners definitely put him in this category of rookie running back of Bijan, Zeke, those kind of guys that we drafted like super high their rookie year. Um, I didn't buy him there. I did buy him in a couple leagues, right? Where it was, but I don't think that he's going to be this immediate contributor. And I definitely have learned through the first few weeks that they need David Montgomery to be that bruiser in pass protection. And that's just because he's a rookie. Like, that's just like, those are things that like rookie running backs, unless they're immaculate players, they're not going to be good in pass pro because they didn't have to do that in college. Like, it sounds crazy, but like, they're not going to, Jahmyr Gibbs is also not going to be a bruiser goal line back. Like, look, I think in week 2, I think he had 9 targets in receiving. I think he had 1 this week. From a fantasy perspective, I'm not pressing the panic button on Jahmyr Gibbs, and anybody selling, I'm buying, especially in dynasty leagues. But he's not going to be this Bijan Robinson bell cow back at this early in his career. He might be able to develop into that, but no, I think he's still a stud, and I'm not panicking. Like, I think he brings an explosion to the offense that concerns me as a Packers fan. But the reason I'm taking the Packers, simply like what you said, the defensive side of the ball. I think that the Lions are a little dinged up offensively. I think Goff is actually a decent primetime quarterback, but they're not a great. They have not been a great road team, and there's no way that the Packers are not going to be up for this game. That's the other thing that, like, let's just rewind the clock. This team ended our season last year. So the perspective of Thursday night football, short week, yeah. I think Aaron Jones is probably playing. I think he plays on fresh legs, and that's impactful for the running back position on Thursday night football. People never like think about that, but like that is huge. And I think the defense is that good. We shut down, especially with no David Montgomery, we shut down what they are best at. You put Jair Alexander on Amon-Ra St. Brown, like that's going to be a matchup problem. And I don't think the rest of the receiver room is great. I think Sam Laporta has been a great find for them. He'll probably have a big game. But this should be a good game. I'm excited. This is the first Thursday night game outside of Lions Chiefs that I've been pretty excited to watch. Like, I was not that up for Giants 49ers. I kind of knew what was going to happen. But let's move on. I'm spending a little too much time on one game here. Rapid fire: Falcons, Jaguars. Riding with the Jaguars. Hand is hovering over that panic button. Need to see something more out of the offense this week.
Yeah, I don't really like what I saw from the Saints either. Like, just
I know Falcons.
Oh, it's Jags Falcons.
Yeah,
I'll ride Falcons then. They're kind of like my team. I'm just gonna ride with this year. They didn't look too great last.
It's in Jacksonville. And I'll say this: like, I like my T-Law thing, dude. I think it was like they were down in the goal line this week. I forget the situation. They had like 3 or 4 incompletions that were like toe taps. The receivers couldn't get down or hold on to the ball in a row in the red zone this week, and it was just like this weird sequence of events. Like, are you kidding me? And so look, I think that they're going to be fine. I don't think the Falcons defense is elite. I think they're a well-coached team, but I don't think that they're like elite. So I think Jaguars handle business here. Rams at Colts. This is a hard one to pick because the Rams haven't played yet this week. And like based on where they were last week, I'm taking the Rams subject to change, which we do allow the caveat because we now record before Monday Night Football. I think that is a rule we should establish that Monday night for teams that play on Monday night, we're allowed to change our picks.
Well,
but I'm taking the Rams subject to change, but fairly confident.
I'll take the Colts just because I think if they get this done, it's going to take everything out of them tonight.
Yeah,
just gonna be honest.
That's true. It's a solid take. Ravens going into Cleveland. I'm rolling with the Browns. I'm confident, man. They look good. Like I'm Ravens coming off a loss, I know, but like I got the Browns, man. Pretty high on them right now.
Go Ravens.
Oh, well,
The number.
we are now different on 3 out of 4 picks.
Yeah, I'm trying to make up some ground here. And I think the Ravens can be better next week. I
Okay.
really do. Tough loss, but they're a good team.
All right. Vikings at Panthers.
If the Vikings don't win here, you should trade Kirk Cousins. Like, just blow it up because the Panthers are trying to rebuild and they have Adam Thielen as like their number one. And that right now would probably be
Yeah.
your slot is a Minnesota Viking team. So, yeah, they got to win this game.
I agree. I think it's Vikings like just on a do or die mentality. Like if we lose this, who are we? Uh,
Yeah.
like they got to win this game.
Game, right.
And the Panthers like are not looking to do a lot this year. Like so,
Yep.
Bengals at Titans. This one I thought about a lot, and also subject to change based on Monday Night Football. But
Yeah, sure.
taking the Bengals for the same reason I just took the Vikings, where if it's 1-3 or 0-4, it's like who are we? And I know they've had Burrow calf injuries. We'll see how Monday night goes tonight. But the Titans have looked better than expected. The Bengals have also had their number recently. So
They have. Yeah, I'm going to go with that reason. And the Bengals have had their number. I just don't love the idea of the Titans trying to keep up in a shootout. Like, I'm glad they got DeAndre Hopkins. I really am, but I still am really not that confident in Ryan Tannehill. I mean, he's just not really shown me anything good as a couple of years. So
yeah, that's fair. All right, we got Buccaneers at Saints, which is surprisingly an interesting game.
it's
Because the Bucks have looked good. Also subject to change on a Monday Night Football game this week, but I'm gonna roll with the Saints because it's in New Orleans, but would not be shocked.
no, I'm doing that literally because it's in New Orleans, and I just feel like the Buccaneers like.
And we got the famous Jameis revenge game, probably. Like,
Oh yeah, just that whole division thing. I'm gonna go with the Saints.
all right, all right. Dolphins at Bills. This is like game of the year
It
material.
is. It is me really good. I think the Bills get a wake up call. I just got a feeling.
You're going Dolphins.
I'm going Dolphins. After the Bills lost to
I
the
will
Chiefs.
roll with the Bills because I think that the Bill for the same reason I picked them in the preseason. Like it'd be dumb for me to flip that pick now. Like
Fair
I
enough.
think that the Bills are on top of this division. Their defense just had a field day. All right.
Yeah.
And this is a better defense. This is what I said in the preseason, man. I said this about the Bills defense. I said people think that they're worse than they are. They're getting Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer back. Divisional game in Buffalo. I would prefer this game to have been played, you know, have their home game against the Dolphins be played in like December, but I think they get the job done. Now for the game of the week.
Oh, okay.
Broncos are traveling into Chicago to play the Bears. Who's 0-4?
Ooh, 0-4. It better not be the Broncos. I think if the Broncos lose this game, it'll be because Russell Wilson stunk. So I'm taking the Broncos because if I don't, I'm selling his stock. You can quote me on that.
At a loss, too, let me tell you.
Yes, definitely it'll be at a loss, but I will get off now because that'll probably put them in danger of being benched if they're 0-4.
Yeah, I'm rolling with the Broncos too, just because I think they're better than like they are. I think that and like I know that doesn't make sense, but like
No, it's a tough sell after to move last.
yeah, it's tough to say.
I know where you're coming from. I really do.
And also, I think the Bears are like one of the worst football teams I've seen in a long time. Like I just don't. I will not pick the Bears to win a football game. I don't have a reason to.
They just look so bad. Like you turn the game on and there's nothing. There's just nothing.
Commanders at Eagles.
Eagles.
Yeah, I just don't see a reason to pick against them. Steelers at Texans. We didn't talk about this game, and it was the first game out of the when I put together the list of games to talk about this week. CJ Stroud, man.
Yeah. Very good.
And we'll probably be next week we talk about him if he follows it up. But
right. I'm gonna go with the Steelers on this.
I'm gonna roll with the Steelers too. They've kind of been rolling, honestly. Like and their defense is really good. So I'm rolling Steelers.
Yeah. DJ Waddle have a day.
Raiders at Chargers. I'm taking Chargers and not thinking twice about it. I have no reason to ever pick the Raiders to win a football game.
Yeah, and dude,
This
I
just feels like classic Chargers start 0-2 and find themselves 2-2 with
yeah, and then they
with
might lose the next week. It
yeah,
happens.
and then they'll
I'll
and
take the
then
Chargers. Yeah, there's a pattern to this. There really is a pattern to our picks.
49ers at Cardinals.
49ers might be interesting just
Actually,
because
sorry, it's in San Francisco. I misspoke.
definitely 49ers.
Patriots at Cowboys.
At Cowboys has me thinking. It really does. I'm gonna go with the Patriots.
Wow, that was my upset of the week too.
Yeah,
We're on the same page. Yeah, man. It's Bill Belichick. Like I
versus
think the
Mike
Patriots.
McCarthy.
I think the Patriots are better than people think they are. Like that's especially defensively. Again, if the Cowboys had rolled through the Cardinals, yes. But
Right.
the problem is they're in this very like this is a big game for them, which would give me actually incentive to pick the Cowboys. I think they do bounce back. But the Patriots, I think I roll with them just because they're defensively they've looked good. They look good against the Eagles. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
Cowboys have not been good in prime time as of late. I
so
will add.
Sunday night football next week, I'm just not excited to watch. Chiefs at Jets, just kind of a
Could have
meh.
been good. It
Yeah,
really could have been good.
it could have been good, but rolling with the Chiefs. And then Seahawks at Giants on Monday night next week. You know I'm rolling with the boys, man. I'm rolling with the Giants.
I will be rolling with the Seahawks.
Rolling with the Giants to move to 2-2. It's in New York. If it was in Seattle, I'd be very concerned, but it's not. So the boys, we're moving to 2-2. We're going to be right in the thick of the division, just like I had anticipated. And we're gonna be rock solid. So that takes us through the Week 4 slate. Final segment of the day. What are your three biggest surprises? What are your three biggest surprises through 3 weeks? This can be something we talked about, have not talked about, but I'll give you the floor to go first.
The biggest surprise so far, like out of probably everything, like actually it's gonna be the 70-point performance because we were talking about the Dolphins and like I wasn't like out on them, but I was not expecting this where I view them right now, and that might be one of the best teams in the AFC.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have that written down. I have the Dolphins somehow elevating from where they were early season last year. Like
yeah,
I
which
was very low on them going into the year, and through 3 weeks, I hold them as the top team in the AFC, and it's like, wow, how did we get here?
right. They're starting to really just kind of separate themselves from every other offense. Um, I guess like I another surprise for me personally is I know a lot of people are not going to like be shocked to be talking about Jordan Love, but I thought there'd be more mistakes from him. Like
Based
he's had,
on one pick,
right, like he's had
and
his
it was a punt on third and long. Like it didn't like you know what
it
I'm
didn't
saying?
mean
It was
it. Yeah,
inconsequential.
right. When we look at some of these guys around the league who've been doing it and they had these days, and I've just been more than happy with that. Um, and I guess maybe it's not like a shock, shock too much to I guess maybe people up the division, but I thought for sure like it was Jags and nobody else. But this is kind of competitive all of a sudden, and maybe we get a tier where the Titans are last. I know that's weird, but even they look fine. So it's like this division.
Jaguars, like they historically like our slow start team. Like they did this last year with T-Law, and then they caught fire and made that playoff run, stole the division from the Titans, won a playoff game, and then ran into the Chiefs, who won the Super Bowl. Like I'm shocked. I thought it was going to be like smooth sailing, but I'm also not like surprised because when is it ever smooth sailing? And this division is like notorious for this. Like random teams losing, like the Colts rolling 2021 with Carson Wentz and then losing in Jacksonville. And like they like I
Yeah,
just don't know if there's a division where like more teams split every year. Like the Titans had a hold on it, and I still feel like they were splitting games against in bad teams at that time. Like I don't know.
quick ad though. I think with like last week we said somehow like the Jaguars usually have the Texans number. It might have been the Titans because I believe T Law is now like 1-4 against.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so random. Like, you know what I'm talking
Right,
about? Where
David
it's like
still take
T-Law,
probably originated.
T-Law plays average. They lose by a possession to the Chiefs, and then they show up, and maybe it's just like coaching or having a young team. I wouldn't say coaching with Doug Peterson, just a young quarterback, young skills, immature, like, oh, we can handle the Texans, we're fine. And then, it's the NFL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
My other
true.
another surprise I have, you mentioned it, Josh Dobbs, man. I wrote this down before we started. Like, I think it was Scott Hansen, maybe, or one of the announcers talking about during the uh, Panthers game, talking about the value of the backup quarterback, Andy Dalton, taking the start this week.
Very true.
Just like the ability to take care of the football and be reliable and be somewhat of a coach towards when you have the young guy there. And Josh Dobbs, vet, comes in, barely knew the guys' names in week one, and here they are. Like, they actually legitimately have a case to be 2-1 at least, or 3-0. Like, they should be 2-1 based off that Giants game.
Right.
Defense is better than expected, and they're taking care of the football on offense, so they're not horrible. He's been a surprise for me, and honestly, the biggest surprise of the year for me through 3 weeks, the Vikings are 0-3. Like, I picked them to win the division. I was very confident. Like, they won 13 games, and I remember saying they could regress by 3 or 4 games and win this division. Like, I said that in the preseason pod, and I stand by it. Like, this team, I don't think is an 0-3 team, and it's freak things like 3 one-possession losses, 7 fumbles through 3 weeks of football, which is
Yeah.
ridiculous. Touchback fumbles with Justin Jefferson. They lost by, like, it hasn't been like one guy to blame. Unless you want to look at the defense, I don't think there's a unit to blame. So those are my 3 surprises: Dolphins, Josh Dobbs, Vikings just being
Nice.
0-3.
Nice. Vikings is very
Yeah.
true. They almost are matching their losses from last year, and we are starting week 4.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just like, it's a surprise to me because I thought they had moved past, with Kevin O'Connell, I thought they had moved past this like Mike Zimmer era of like mediocrity, making the playoffs, losing on a 27-yard field goal, all this other crap. Like, I thought they had moved past that when they went 13-4 and found a way to start winning these close games, because that was always their Achilles heel. It was like, oh, they win 9 games and they lost like 7 by 3 points. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what they would be. And last year felt like they moved past that. And here we are, 7 fumbles. Like, this Vikings curse is like, wow, this franchise, how do they continue to find themselves in this level of mediocrity when they've elevated?
Yeah, I don't know how they do it. I really don't.
And Jake's not here to defend. I don't know if he'd defend it, because
No, honestly, yeah.
he'd probably be agreeing.
Yeah.
But any closing surprises or closing thoughts before we get ready for some Monday Night Football?
Yeah, not too much. Really just kind of looking forward to see what tonight brings us, because there's still a lot, as much as what happened this weekend and what's gonna happen tonight. I have a lot of question marks still about so many things on so many teams. Like, a lot of teams took a step back this week in my so very exciting. We'll obviously look forward to next week, and keep the ball rolling. Hopefully the Packers don't ruin the rest of the week for me on Thursday. But
As a reminder, we both have the Eagles tonight. I've got Bengals, you've got Rams. So chance to tie me if Eagles win and Rams win, or I could pull ahead and beat you by 2 and take the all-time lead by 1, which we are still currently tied, which is just incredible. I don't know what the odds are, but excited to watch some Monday Night Football. Move on. Be sure to check us out on TikTok and Twitter, and be sure to just share your thoughts. DM us, etc. Follow us, message, comment on our stuff. If you have anything, if you're watching on YouTube, if you have any suggestions, ideas, takes, even that we want us to react to. So be sure to check us out, and we'll be back next Monday with the same style podcast. So without further ado, see you next week.
Okay.